Taehyung didn't know why his hands were shaking. He'd held microphones in front of millions, stood on stages where the lights were blinding and the screams never stopped, but this was different. This was quiet, too quiet. The dorm room felt wrong without Jungkook's presence. No low humming from the kitchen. No bare feet padding across the floor at 2 a.m. No half-finished cup of ramen abandoned on the counter because Jungkook got distracted talking about a melody stuck in his head. 3 days. 3 days since the fight. 3 days since Jungkook's voice disappeared from Taehyung's world. The envelope lay on the desk like it had weight, like it was pressing into the wood beneath it. It was creased, bent at the corners as if it had been gripped too tightly, then let go, then picked up again. The seal had already been broken. Jungkook hadn't meant for Taehyung to find it like this, or maybe he had. Taehyung swallowed hard and picked it up. The paper inside trembled as he unfolded it, his fingers suddenly feeling unfamiliar, clumsy. The first line was written in Jungkook's handwriting, unmistakable, slanted slightly to the right, ink darker where the pen had pressed harder. "Don't read this unless you're ready to lose me." Taehyung's breath caught. The air in the room seemed to thicken, like the walls had leaned closer without him noticing. He could hear his own heartbeat, loud and uneven, crashing in his ears. His eyes moved down the page, even though every instinct screamed at him to stop. The fight replayed in his mind without permission. Jungkook standing by the door, jaw clenched, eyes burning with something between anger and hurt. Taehyung's voice sharper than he'd meant it to be. Words thrown like knives because neither of them knew how to say "I'm scared" without turning it into blame. Taehyung forced himself to keep reading. "If you're holding this, it means I couldn't say any of this out loud, not without breaking apart." His throat tightened. "I'm not angry, I'm just tired. Tired of pretending everything is fine when it's not. When I look at you lately, it hurts. Not because I hate you. God, no. But because I still love you and I don't know how to do that without destroying us." Taehyung's vision blurred. He blinked hard, refusing to let the tears fall yet. Outside the window, rain streaked down the glass, the city lights bleeding into one another like memories he couldn't quite hold on to. He remembered asking Jungkook during the fight why he'd been pulling away, why he stopped reaching for Taehyung's hand when the cameras were off, why the warmth between them had turned into something careful, something fragile. "You asked me why I keep stepping back, why I look away when you walk into the room, why I stopped holding your hand when no one's watching. You asked me if I stopped caring." Taehyung's chest ached. "I didn't stop caring, I stopped hoping." The room disappeared. There was nothing left but the sound of his heart and the weight of Jungkook's words pressing into him, heavy and relentless. "I know I hurt you. I know you won't say it because you never do. You're too good at swallowing pain and calling it strength. But I saw it. Every forced smile. Every time you said you were fine when you were." Taehyung's knees buckled. He sank down onto the floor, the letter still clenched in his hand, the wooden panels cold beneath him. He didn't feel the impact. The only thing he felt was the truth unraveling, line by line, too honest to ignore. He remembered the door slamming, remembered Jungkook not following him, remembered waking up the next morning to an empty room and silence that screamed louder than any argument ever had. "You once told me you loved me because I made you feel safe, but I haven't done that in a long time, have I? You flinch now when I raise my voice. You step back when I touch your shoulder." Taehyung pressed the paper to his chest. "That's not because you stopped loving me. It's because I stopped loving myself enough to believe I deserved you." The first tear fell. It landed on the page, smearing the ink just slightly. Taehyung didn't wipe it away. He couldn't. His hands were shaking too much, his chest tight like it was caving in on itself. The clock on the wall read 2:11 a.m. Their time. The hour Jungkook used to send him stupid memes, or half-written lyrics, or voice notes whispering melodies he didn't want to forget by morning. The hour Taehyung used to fall asleep to the sound of JUNGKOOK breathing beside him. Now there was only this letter. This quiet, devastating confession written in absence. A soft creak echoed from the doorway. Taehyung didn't look up. He knew that sound. Slow, hesitant, like someone standing on the edge of a decision they were afraid to make. He folded the letter with trembling fingers and whispered, his voice breaking as it filled the room. "Why didn't you say any of this to me?" Silence stretched. Then footsteps. Taehyung stood, turning slowly, his eyes burning, his hands clenched so tightly around the paper it crumpled. JUNGKOOK stood a few feet away. His hoodie was soaked from the rain, darkened with water, strands of hair clinging to his forehead. His eyes looked tired, haunted, like he hadn't slept in days, like he'd been walking for hours just to find the courage to open that door. "I didn't think you'd listen," JUNGKOOK said quietly. Taehyung's breath hitched. "I would have," he snapped, taking a step forward. "I was waiting for you." Rain drummed against the windows, as the space between them filled with everything they hadn't said. And neither of them knew yet that this letter wasn't the end of the fight. JUNGKOOK didn't move when Taehyung stepped closer. The distance between them felt fragile, like one wrong breath could shatter it completely. Water dripped from the edge of JUNGKOOK's hoodie onto the floor, the soft sound cutting through the thick silence. His eyes flickered to the crumpled letter in Taehyung's hand, then back to Taehyung's face. "I didn't think you'd listen," JUNGKOOK repeated, quieter this time. "Not after that night." Taehyung laughed, but there was no humor in it. It came out sharp, broken. "You don't get to decide that for me," he said. "You don't get to disappear and leave me with this." He shook the letter once, the paper rustling violently. "I would have listened. I was waiting for you to say something, anything." JUNGKOOK's jaw tightened. He looked away, eyes fixed on the rain-soaked window like it was safer than meeting Taehyung's gaze. "You looked at me like you hated me," he said. "You said I was selfish, that I didn't know how to love without controlling everything, that I was suffocating you." Taehyung's chest twisted painfully. "I was angry," he said, his voice dropping. "You were angry too. We both said things we didn't mean." "No," JUNGKOOK snapped, finally looking back at him. His eyes flashed, raw and unguarded. "I meant it. I meant every word. I am selfish. I am scared. And I keep hurting the people I love most, then acting like I'm the one who needs saving." "Stop," Taehyung hissed, stepping closer. "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Destroying yourself so I don't have a choice but to forgive you," Taehyung said. "That's not how this works anymore." JUNGKOOK's breath came out ragged. "Then tell me how it works, Taehyung," he said, his voice rising. "Tell me how to love you without breaking you." The question hung between them, heavy and unanswered. Taehyung swallowed hard. His voice softened, barely above a whisper. "You don't break me. What breaks me is watching you walk away every time things get too real." JUNGKOOK's shoulders sagged, like the fight had drained out of him all at once. "I didn't walk away this time," he said. "I wrote you a letter." "You wrote a goodbye," Taehyung replied, his tone turning cold. "That's not love, that's surrender." The words landed hard. JUNGKOOK ran a hand through his wet hair, packing once like a caged animal before stopping. "I thought I was protecting you," he muttered. "I thought letting you go would give you peace." "You don't get to decide that for me," Taehyung said again, firmer now. "If you want to leave, say it to my face. Don't hide behind ink and silence." "I don't want to leave," JUNGKOOK suddenly shouted, his voice cracking. "I wanted you to chase me. I wanted you to care enough to come after me." Taehyung froze. The confession hit him like a punch to the chest. "Do you hear how twisted that sounds?" he asked quietly. "You disappear just to see if I'll follow. That's not love, JUNGKOOK. That's punishment." JUNGKOOK's hands dropped to his sides. His entire body looked like it might collapse under the weight of his own words. "I didn't know how else to reach you," he said, defeated. You've been slipping away for months. Every night you turned your back to me in bed. Every smile you forced in front of everyone else. You started looking at me like I was a stranger. Because I didn't recognize you anymore, Taehyung shot back. You weren't the JUNGKOOK who used to hold my hand under the table or sing to me when I couldn't sleep. You became someone I had to be careful around. The room vibrated with tension. Every breath felt negotiated. I didn't change, JUNGKOOK said stubbornly. I just stopped hiding how tired I was. Taehyung's anger cracked, revealing something raw beneath it. Then, why didn't you let me be tired with you? He asked. Why did you decide I wasn't strong enough to carry it with you? JUNGKOOK's expression shattered. Guilt flooded his eyes, unmistakable and deep. He had treated Taehyung like glass, always shielding him from the storm instead of letting him stand in the rain beside him. I read your letter, Taehyung said softly, every word. JUNGKOOK nodded, bracing himself, and I cried because it was beautiful, Taehyung said. And I cried because you didn't trust me with it until you were already gone. JUNGKOOK opened his mouth, then closed it again. There was no defense left. Taehyung folded the letter carefully this time, pressing it against his chest. Don't ever leave me a goodbye like that again, he said. If you're going to walk away, do it with your voice, not paper. He turned and walked past JUNGKOOK, their shoulders brushing for just a second, electricity sparking painfully between them. At the door, Taehyung paused. His voice dropped to a murmur. If you're still the JUNGKOOK I fell in love with, then fight for me. The door closed behind him. JUNGKOOK stood frozen, staring at the empty space where Taehyung had been. His chest heaved as the weight of everything settled in. He had expected tears, maybe silence, but not this. Not a challenge, not hope wrapped in demand. Fight for me, JUNGKOOK whispered to himself, the words tasting like both fear and promise. The next day he didn't text, he didn't call. He showed up. The vocal studio was dim, lit only by a small lamp near the mixing board. Taehyung sat on a stool, headphones on, humming a low, unfinished melody. JUNGKOOK stood in the doorway, heart pounding, waiting. You're here, Taehyung said without turning around. You told me to fight, JUNGKOOK replied. This is me starting. Taehyung slowly removed the headphones and turned to face him. His eyes were tired, guarded. You think showing up is enough? It's not everything, JUNGKOOK said, stepping closer, but it's not nothing. Taehyung studied him for a long moment. I wrote this song 3 months ago, he said. When you started disappearing into yourself, I couldn't finish it because I didn't know how it ended. JUNGKOOK swallowed. Let me hear it. No, Taehyung said sharply. You don't get the song until you hear me. Then talk, JUNGKOOK said. Say everything you didn't that night. Taehyung's voice trembled. You think I didn't scream in my head. You think I didn't hate myself for wanting you after you left that letter. I thought it would give you closure, JUNGKOOK said. It gave me trauma, Taehyung shot back. You don't get to disappear, write a tragedy, and call it love. The tension thickened like a storm ready to break. The silence after Taehyung's words didn't feel empty. It felt loaded. JUNGKOOK stood in the middle of the vocal studio, fists clenched at his sides, his chest rising and falling too fast. The faint hum of the equipment filled the space, a reminder that this room had witnessed hundreds of songs, but never something this raw. I wasn't trying to make it poetic, JUNGKOOK said finally, his voice low and strained. I was trying not to lose my mind. But you were willing to lose me, Taehyung replied without hesitation. His eyes didn't leave JUNGKOOK's face. Do you even hear yourself? JUNGKOOK took a step forward, then another until they were standing too close for comfort. I thought you already had, he said. You were right there and I still felt alone. Every night, every conversation that stopped halfway, every time you smiled at everyone else but barely looked at me. Because I didn't know how to reach you anymore, Taehyung shot back. You shut me out and called it protecting me. JUNGKOOK's voice cracked. I thought I was sparing you. You were deciding for me, Taehyung said. That's not love. That's control disguised as sacrifice. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. JUNGKOOK turned away, dragging a hand down his face. I didn't know how else to survive it, he whispered. I thought if I left quietly, you'd heal faster. Taehyung's anger finally broke. Not exploded, broke. His shoulders sagged, his voice losing its edge. You don't get to heal me by hurting yourself, he said. You don't get to decide that I'm stronger without you. JUNGKOOK looked back at him, eyes red, stripped of every defense. Then tell me what you want from me. Taehyung didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was steady, terrifyingly honest. I want you to stay, even when it's ugly, even when we don't know how to fix it yet. JUNGKOOK nodded slowly, like he was imprinting the words into his bones. I'm trying. I know, Taehyung said, but trying isn't the same as trusting. Something shifted then, not healed but exposed. They didn't touch. They didn't hug. JUNGKOOK left the studio without another word, and Taehyung didn't stop him this time. Not because he didn't care, but because for the first time he wasn't chasing someone who refused to stand still. The next week unraveled quietly at first. Too quietly. They started rehearsing separately. JUNGKOOK arrived early. Taehyung stayed late. Their movements on stage, once instinctive and synchronized, now felt calculated, delayed by half a second too long. People noticed. Whispers passed through makeup rooms. Backup dancers exchanged glances. Staff avoided eye contact. Whatever they'd been hiding had started leaking through the cracks. It exploded during choreography practice. You need to lift him there, the choreographer snapped, frustration sharp. We've done this move 20 times. JUNGKOOK turned to Taehyung, his jaw tight. Why are you hesitating? Taehyung's eyes flashed. Don't flip this on me. You're pulling away, JUNGKOOK said, stepping closer. You're avoiding the contact. I'm not your puppet, Taehyung snapped. You don't get to control how I move just because you finally decided to show up. The room froze. The choreographer cleared his throat, suddenly very interested in his clipboard. Let's take 5, he muttered before ushering everyone out. The door slammed shut behind them. JUNGKOOK's expression hardened. So this is how it's going to be. This, Taehyung said coldly, is me trying to breathe without drowning in your guilt. JUNGKOOK scoffed. You cry when I leave, you scream when I stay. What do you want from me? I want you to stop making me responsible for saving you, Taehyung said, his voice cracking despite himself. I absorbed you, JUNGKOOK. I bent myself so you wouldn't break, and I didn't even realize I was bleeding too. JUNGKOOK's breath hitched. I never asked you to bleed for me. But you watched me do it, Taehyung whispered, and you let me. The silence was suffocating. Then Taehyung reached into his pocket and threw something onto the bench between them. An envelope. JUNGKOOK went pale. You left this, Taehyung said, behind the mirror in the vocal booth. I wrote that before we talked, JUNGKOOK said quickly. I forgot it was there. You meant to leave it, Taehyung snapped. Read it. JUNGKOOK stared at him. Taehyung. Read it, Taehyung repeated, hands shaking. JUNGKOOK unfolded the paper, his voice breaking as he spoke. If I vanish this time, please don't chase me. I don't deserve it. You'll be better without me. You always were stronger than me. He couldn't continue. Taehyung swallowed hard. Do you still believe that? No, JUNGKOOK said immediately, dropping the letter. I was lost when I wrote it. I was preparing myself to fail. You never gave me a chance to prove you wrong, Taehyung said quietly. I'm trying now, JUNGKOOK whispered. Before Taehyung could answer, the door opened. Bang Si-hyuk stepped inside. There's a problem, he said gravely. The first letter, it's leaked. The words sucked the air from the room. What? JUNGKOOK breathed. It's on the forums, Bang continued. Photos, speculation, your names are trending. Taehyung's heart dropped. Their private pain wasn't private anymore. Bang handed them a draft statement. You have two choices, deny everything or speak. Taehyung looked at JUNGKOOK. JUNGKOOK looked back. What if we don't lie this time? Taehyung said softly. Bang sighed. You know what that means. Yeah, Taehyung said. It means war. JUNGKOOK didn't hesitate. Then we fight together. Neither of them realized, yet, how high the cost of that choice would be. And the world was already watching. The conference room felt colder than it should have. Glass walls, polished table, bottled water no one touched. Taehyung sat on one side, arms crossed tightly over his chest, jaw locked. JUNGKOOK sat opposite him, staring at the condensation sliding down his bottle like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Between them were PR directors, a legal advisor, and Bang Si-hyuk at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. The leaked letter had already detonated across the internet. Fan forums were on fire. Screenshots dissected line by line. Headlines danced around words like emotional dependency, internal conflict, inappropriate closeness. Nothing explicit, nothing honest, just enough truth twisted into something dangerous. You need to understand the scale of this, the legal advisor began, voice calm and clinical. Even implying a romantic context will trigger backlash we cannot control. It's not about implying, Taehyung said flatly. We don't want to imply anything. The PR director frowned. Then what exactly are you suggesting? We want to tell the truth, Taehyung replied. Silence rippled across the table. You'll lose endorsements, another director said sharply. Sponsors will pull out. Fan bases will fracture. Do you really believe love is more important than everything you've built? JUNGKOOK finally spoke. His voice was quiet, steady, exhausted. What's the point of building something if I'm miserable inside it? Bang's eyes narrowed. This isn't about your feelings. This is about responsibility. You're not just individuals. You're a brand, a global one. And that brand almost lost me 6 months ago, JUNGKOOK said. The room froze. Taehyung's head snapped toward him. What? JUNGKOOK didn't look up. The night before the Japan tour, you thought I was at the gym. His hands trembled slightly as he rested them on the table. I was standing on the hotel balcony. Taehyung felt the world tilt. You never told me, he whispered. I didn't want you to carry it, JUNGKOOK said. I thought if I told you it would break you, and I couldn't handle that. Taehyung stood so fast his chair screeched backward. You don't get to almost die and call it protection, he said, voice shaking with fury. That's not love, that's abandonment. Bang exhaled slowly. This is exactly what I wanted to avoid. Emotion contaminates clarity. Taehyung turned on him. We are not machines, he said. You want clarity, here it is. I'm done lying. I'm done smiling in interviews while falling apart off camera. I love JUNGKOOK, and I'm not ashamed of it. The room erupted. You're making a mistake. You don't understand the consequences. This could destroy everything. JUNGKOOK stood and moved to Taehyung's side without hesitation. He's not doing this alone. Bang studied them for a long moment. His voice softened just slightly. Once you open this door, you can't close it again. We know, Taehyung said. 2 days later, the interview aired. The teaser alone shattered records, but it was the moment Taehyung said, we fought, we broke, and somehow we still love each other, that everything shifted. Some fans cried, some raged, some refused to believe it, but millions stayed, and those who stayed were loud. Still, the backlash came fast. Taehyung's parents found out through headlines. JUNGKOOK's older brother stopped replying to messages. 2 endorsement deals were quietly paused. A senior idol from another label posted a vague comment about selfishness and betrayal. Then came the threats. One arrived inside a gift box. Another through a hacked fan email. Taehyung read the one that said, you should have disappeared before ruining him, and his hands shook so badly he almost dropped his phone. He didn't tell JUNGKOOK. He burned it in the fire pit behind the dorm, watched the words curl into ash, convinced silence was still protection. It was. The next morning, JUNGKOOK found the remnants. "You didn't tell me," he said quietly, holding the charred corner of the envelope. "I didn't want to scare you," Taehyung replied, staring into his coffee. "I'm already scared," JUNGKOOK said. "I haven't slept in months." Taehyung looked up then. "Don't regret choosing us," he said. "I'd rather face the storm with you than stand safe and alone." That night, they walked onto a fan meeting stage for the first time since the interview. Taehyung's heart pounded as the lights rose. He expected boos. Instead, the arena exploded. Not with anger, but with protection. Signs waved, people cried. Voices screamed their names not in accusation, but in loyalty. When Taehyung spoke, the silence was reverent. "We've never lied about our music," he said, "and we don't want to lie about who we are." The standing ovation lasted 7 minutes. Backstage, Bang waited for them, flanked by security. "Congratulations," he said quietly. "You're now the most controversial idols in the country." They were cheering, Taehyung said. "And tomorrow," Bang replied, "the headlines will twist everything you said." JUNGKOOK met his gaze. "Let them." Bang walked away. The storm wasn't over. It was just learning their names. The applause faded, but the pressure didn't. By the third week after the interview, Taehyung could feel it in his body, an exhaustion that sleep didn't fix, a tightness in his chest that appeared every time his phone buzzed. Support was loud, but so was hate, and hate had a way of finding the quiet moments. He stopped scrolling, JUNGKOOK didn't. At 3 in the morning, JUNGKOOK sat on the edge of the bed, phone glowing against his tired face, absorbing every comment like it was a personal obligation. Taehyung watched him from under the covers, recognizing the signs too well. "You don't have to read everything," Taehyung said softly. JUNGKOOK didn't look up. "If I don't, it feels like I'm ignoring them, like I'm running." "You're bleeding," Taehyung replied. "That's not bravery." JUNGKOOK finally met his eyes. "What if they're right?" he asked. "What if I dragged you into this because I was selfish?" Taehyung sat up, reaching for him. "Look at me," he said. "I chose this. I choose you. Don't rewrite our story because strangers are loud." JUNGKOOK nodded, but the doubt didn't leave his face. It showed up at rehearsal. He missed cues, forgot lyrics he'd known for years. During one run-through, his voice cracked so badly the music director stopped everything. "Take 10, she said gently. JUNGKOOK walked straight to the bathroom and locked the door. Taehyung waited outside, forehead resting against the cool tile. He could hear JUNGKOOK breathing inside, short, uneven, panicked. "Open the door," Taehyung said quietly. "Please." No answer. When the door finally opened, JUNGKOOK's eyes were red, his hands shaking. "I can't do this today," he whispered. "I can't be strong all the time." Taehyung pulled him into the hallway, ignoring the stairs. "Then don't," he said. "Let me hold it for a while." They canceled practice. The announcement leaked within an hour. Speculation exploded again. Is JUNGKOOK unstable? Is Taehyung forcing this? Is the group breaking? Management called an emergency meeting. "This can't continue," a director said bluntly. "You're both deteriorating. We need distance." Taehyung stiffened. "Distance from what?" "From each other," the director replied. "Temporarily." JUNGKOOK went pale. "You can't separate us like that." "It's not punishment," Bang said carefully. "It's damage control." Taehyung stood. "You said we could speak the truth. This is the truth. We function better together." "And right now," Bang replied, "you're not functioning at all." The decision came down anyway. Separate dorms, separate schedules, limited interaction outside official work. The night JUNGKOOK packed, the room felt unfamiliar. I've lived here for 10 years, Jungkook said quietly, folding a hoodie. And now it feels like exile. Taehyung leaned against the doorframe, fists clenched. This isn't goodbye, he said, forcing steadiness into his voice. It's just space. Jungkook looked at him, eyes glossy. Space is where doubt grows. Taehyung crossed the room and pulled him into a hug so tight it hurt. Then we'll survive it, he whispered. We survived worse. They didn't cry. They couldn't afford to. The days apart were louder than expected. Taehyung filled his schedule with work, fashion shoots, variety appearances, interviews where questions danced around Jungkook's name like landmines. He smiled on cue, laughed on command, then went home to an apartment that echoed. Jungkook stopped answering texts after midnight. When Taehyung finally confronted him, Jungkook's reply was short. I'm trying not to fall apart where you can see it. That scared Taehyung more than any headline. He drove to Jungkook's place without permission. Security protested. He ignored them. Jungkook opened the door, looking smaller than Taehyung remembered. You weren't supposed to come, Jungkook said. I wasn't supposed to let you disappear either, Taehyung replied, stepping inside. The apartment was too clean, too quiet, no music, no laughter, just survival. Jungkook sank onto the couch. I thought space would make it easier, he admitted, but all it did was give my fears room to talk. Taehyung sat beside him. What are they saying? That I'm the problem, Jungkook whispered. That you'd be safer without me. Taehyung took Jungkook's hands, grounding him. Listen to me, he said firmly. You don't get to decide my worth by erasing yourself. Jungkook broke then. Not dramatically, not loudly, just tears slipping down as he leaned into Taehyung's shoulder, exhausted from pretending. I'm so tired, he said. I know, Taehyung replied, but you're not alone anymore, not again. They stayed like that until dawn. The next morning, Bang called. I heard you visited him, he said. Yes, Taehyung replied without apology. There was a long pause. Then maybe, Bang said slowly, we've been approaching this wrong. 2 weeks later, the separation rule was quietly lifted. No announcement, no apology. Just a schedule update. The storm outside hadn't stopped, but inside something steadied. That night, Taehyung found Jungkook in the studio, writing. What are you working on? Taehyung asked. Jungkook smiled faintly. A song, he said, about staying. Taehyung sat beside him, listening to the melody take shape. For the first time in months, the room felt safe again. The world could watch. They were done running. The song didn't stay private for long. It never did. 2 days after Jungkook finished the demo, a staff member heard it through the studio door. A hum here, a lyric there. By the end of the week, insiders were whispering about a track that sounded too honest to be fictional. And honesty, Taehyung learned, frightened people more than lies. The company reviewed the lyrics in silence. Lines about waiting in the dark, about choosing someone even when the world demanded distance, about fear that didn't come from crowds, but from being alone in a room full of voices. This can't be released as is, the A&R director finally said. It's too obvious. Jungkook leaned back in his chair. Then what's the point of releasing anything at all? You can reframe it, the director replied. Make it ambiguous, let people project. Taehyung spoke before Jungkook could. That's just another way of hiding. Bang rubbed his temples. You don't win wars by charging head first, he said. You survive them. And what if surviving keeps killing us slowly? Taehyung asked. No one answered. The compromise was cruel but clean. The song would be released with edits, certain lines softened, certain pronouns erased, the meaning dulled just enough to be deniable. Jungkook agreed. Taehyung didn't argue, but that night he couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to JUNGKOOK breathe beside him, wondering how many pieces of themselves they had already traded for peace, and how many more the world would demand. The backlash didn't disappear. It evolved. Hate became organized, not loud but strategic, boycott lists, mass reporting, emails to sponsors written in polite language that carried sharp knives. Taehyung lost a luxury brand deal without explanation. JUNGKOOK stopped being invited to certain variety shows. Nothing public, nothing provable, just absence. That was the part that hurt most. One afternoon, Taehyung overheard two junior staff members whispering near the elevator. "They're talented, but yeah, complicated." The doors closed before he could hear the rest. Complicated. That word followed him home. "Do you ever think," Taehyung asked quietly that night, "that they're just waiting for us to get tired?" JUNGKOOK didn't pretend not to understand. "Yeah," he said, "sometimes I think they're betting on it." "Are you tired?" Taehyung asked. JUNGKOOK hesitated, then nodded. "I'm tired of being brave." Taehyung reached for his hand. "Then don't be brave with them," he said. "Be brave with me." The song was released the following month. It didn't explode. It endured. Fans argued about its meaning. Critics called it unexpectedly vulnerable. One review said it felt like a confession wrapped in restraint. Taehyung listened to it alone for the first time in his car, parked under the Han River Bridge. When the chorus hit, the softened version, his chest tightened anyway. Because he knew what it was supposed to say. The first live performance came with rules. No eye contact for too long, no improvised harmonies, no lingering moments that could be clipped and misinterpreted. They followed them. Mostly. On stage, muscle memory betrayed caution. JUNGKOOK's voice found Taehyung's without effort. Taehyung's gaze lingered half a second too long. The crowd felt it. So did the cameras. That night clips trended again. They're not even hiding. This is uncomfortable. Why does it feel like something we're not supposed to see? Taehyung turned off his phone. JUNGKOOK didn't. By morning, JUNGKOOK was quiet in a way Taehyung recognized immediately. "What is it?" Taehyung asked. JUNGKOOK handed him the phone. A message from a sponsor, polite, regretful, final. This time it was JUNGKOOK's. "I'm sorry," JUNGKOOK said automatically. Taehyung felt something snap. "No," he said firmly, "don't do that." JUNGKOOK looked at him. "Do what?" "Apologize for existing," Taehyung replied. "Apologize for loving me." JUNGKOOK's eyes filled, but he didn't look away. "I hate that my choices hurt you. I hate that the world pretends it's our fault," Taehyung said. They sat in silence, the weight of consequences pressing down. Later that week, Bang called them in again. "You're at a crossroads," he said plainly. "If this continues, you'll keep losing quietly, or you can pull back. Give the public time to forget." "Forget what?" Taehyung asked. Bang didn't answer. JUNGKOOK's voice was steady. "If we pull back, do we get anything back?" Bang shook his head. "No guarantees." Taehyung leaned forward. "Then we're already paying the price," he said. "We might as well stop pretending we're not." Bang studied them for a long time. "You're changing the rules," he said finally. "And history doesn't always thank people who do that." "We're not trying to be remembered," JUNGKOOK said. "We're trying to stay alive." Bang nodded once. "Then understand this. Staying together will cost you more than leaving ever would." Taehyung reached for JUNGKOOK's hand under the table. They didn't hesitate. "Okay," Taehyung said, "we'll pay it." That night, they walked along the river again. No cameras, no statements, just footsteps in cold air and the quiet understanding that love, once chosen openly, was no longer just a feeling. It was a decision. And decisions had consequences. But as JUNGKOOK leaned his head against Taehyung's shoulder, Exhausted but present, Taehyung knew something else too. For the first time, the cost felt real. And for the first time, it felt worth it.